not answering the phone is pretty standard in our household. And also, I might have to apologize to you at least 2 more times during the course of this eulogy. Good morning. On behalf of my family, I want to thank all of you for being here. You didn't have to do that. Funerals, in my belief, were as much for the living as they are the dead. So I thank you for the support that we've had this week, and the support that I know that we're going to get in the future. Whenever I have to argue in front of the court, it's helpful to find a theme. And once you have the theme, then you can argue the case. So late last night, way too late last night, I tried to find the theme of my dad's life, and I realized he didn't have one. My dad had themes. So we'll get into only 3 of them, because quite frankly, there was about 47. The first theme, and this will resonate with those of us who live here in Effingham, is his name, Eckert. He was proud of that name. Thanks to ChatGPT, in German, I know that it means brave with the sword, or strong at the edge. And because of his pride, all of us became proud of that name. When my sister married her husband, Jamie Rodriguez, I tried my best to talk him into changing his name, which brought great glee for my dad. Jamie, way to stay strong. Our cousin Dick Eckert, who many of you know, actually traced the Eckert name back to the first who came here from the old country. And my dad was a 5th generation American, and I'm a 6th generation American. Something unique about my line, our line, is that the oldest son, all the way back, 6, 7 generations ago, always has the middle name Vincent. My dad, his dad, Glenn Vincent, and his wife Catherine, whose name are on that first window right there. My dad couldn't have loved a person more. And I didn't realize how much a son can love a father until my grandpa died. And it changed my dad forever. And like so many of our grandparents or our fathers of that generation, my grandpa was a hard man. Emotion was not shared. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure he liked me. Now, Dad assured me that he liked me, he liked Stacy and Tiffany, and he was proud, and he always knew of our exploits, but you couldn't tell by looking at Grandpa. And I know for a fact his sister Helen didn't like anybody. Yeah, you know that, right? But once my grandpa died, something fundamentally changed. It was probably one of the 2 fundamental changes in his life. And for the last 20 years, my dad ended every phone call with, "I love you." And he ended every time I went to the house, "I love you." And I know he did the same to Stacy, and I know he did the same for Tiffany. He let his emotions control. And that was something to see. And I know it's affected how I've been a father, that change. And it's how affected Tiffany has been a mother. Stacy has made the choice of not having kids, which makes him maybe the smartest one in here. But I wanted to share that about my dad. And again, the name Eckert. It's a solid, foundational Effingham name. Although I will point out, when I got to high school, thanks to Tom, Joey, and Brett, I had some work to do to turn that around. Thanks, Brett. But we did all right. The other fundamental event in my dad's life was his time in the Navy. And I do want to talk about that. We have a great picture that you'll see later in the hall where he's standing in his enlisted summer white jumper wearing his Dixie hat in front of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And then after that Mediterranean tour, they did a Southeast Asia tour, and he's considered a Vietnam vet. However, the signature moment came almost immediately he left training camp. He got flown to the USS Saratoga. Then at the tender age of 18 and 6 weeks out of camp, it blockaded Cuba. There wasn't a bigger moment in the early 60s. I think it shaped his worldview in that he realized at that moment that strength must be met with strength, and evil must be met with good. The military was a source of pride and patriotism to him. It was a scary day that day. JFK actually came onto the intercom to comfort the troops and urge them to be their best. He saw the Soviet Navy on the horizon, and he thought he was going to die that very day. But he didn't. And every day since then, I think he knew that the day was a blessing from God. That wasn't all bad, right? My dad has 2 knife stories from being in the Navy. One of them I can't tell due to all the stabbing. I'm sorry. But know that he was discharged honorably. The other story was the smuggled switchblade he brought home from Italy, which was a source of great pride. Remember, in the 60s, switchblades, highly illegal, but he had one. And I'm proud to say we still have it, and Stacy's going to take care of it for us. The third theme is really more of a hobby. But it was one of those hobbies that tells us who you are. And sadly, or greatly, either way you look at it, the hobby has infected Stacy and I and Tiffany as well. And that was just his love of all things muscle cars and tractors. And I know that sounds like a hobby, right? But you have to understand what a huge part of our lives that has become. I just want to give you a real quick, and if you're not a car person, this might bore you for about a minute, but I want to tell you my dad's personal lineup, what he started with. While he was in the Navy, he bought a 62 Impala SS, bright red with a 327. Funny story about that, it was a convertible. Somehow he and 3 of his Navy buddies ended up at a Beatles concert. They wore those floppy wigs. You could buy those wigs back then, and his car got mobbed with women because they thought they were the Beatles. A lot of disappointment that day, but not for my dad. The Impala was traded in for probably his favorite car, the 65 Pontiac GTO. Bright red, Montero red is what it's called, 389 tri-power, 4-speed, that the main street here in Effingham and several of the windows knows very well. When he traded that in, it was for a 68 Firebird 400, traded that in for a 69 GTO 400, and traded that in for a 74 GTO. And that car never got traded in, so that's where that line stops. And it never got traded in because for my senior year in high school, he gave it to me. It's my car, it's still my car. It's really our car. I hold it in trust. I've painted it twice. It has had more wheels than I know. It's different transmission. It's lived a lot of lives, right? But you know what? I think I know Dad was more proud of the fact that I have that car today than he was when he had it. And of all the cars, I think he's talked more about that one. And he loves to tell a story about how I still had my high school car. And by the way, you'll be able to see it today. It's sitting out by his burial plot. His last years didn't stop. We had a medical moment in 2016, and he had a heart ablation that saved his life. He literally had weeks to live. So my sister Tiffany helped write me in this. We ended up going to St. Luke's. Heart ablations weren't normal then like they are now. And it saved his life. 2 weeks later, he calls me up, I'm sitting in my office, minding my own business, and he says, hey, let's go get something fast. A horse? What type? He goes, I want something fast. All right. Thanks to the wonders of Autotrader.com, I tracked down a 2014 Dodge Challenger, shaker hood, and bright orange. It's in St. Louis. I said, Dad, what do you think? And he's like, when can we go? And you'll also see that car out here today. And that, he told us that was his favorite car. And of course, he cut the exhaust, and now it's so loud you can't hardly sit in it, but that's what he does. His other love was, of course, John Deere's. Like most of us in the room, right? That's no surprise. He loved John Deere's. And that's supposed to wear a hat in church. I apologize. And his first tractor was a John Deere 620. We still have it, of course. And he loved that tractor, and he worked the land, worked our farm, all his life at that tractor. Funny story about that is that he told me 4 or 5 years ago, son, when I die, I want you to have that tractor, and I want you to restore it. And I'm like, sure, Dad, of course. Well, this weekend I found out that he told that to Tiffany, and he told that to Stacy. We'll get that sorted, but Dad, it will shine one day soon. The third thing is our family, right? Us. And he lived his life through us. My wife, Christy, God bless her and the patience that she has to put up with me, told me this, reminded me of this story. The day after we got married, and I got married late. I was 38, right? There was a good chance I wasn't happy. I was on the Stacy Eckert path. And Christy Applehand stole my heart. And she gave me Kate. She gave me Wesley. She gave me Eliza Jane. But the day after the wedding, we're up at my father's house. We pull into the driveway, we walk into the garage, and my dad is wearing a t-shirt that says, "World's Greatest Grandpa." Come on, man. That's how it was. My favorite Stacy and Dad story. Stacy and Dad, within the last 15 years, became regulars at the casino. Neither one of them have a gambling problem. Let's start there, okay? Sorry. But the casino, and some of you know this, on Friday nights have seafood night. And that was the draw. And here's the thing. I know one person in my life who has won big money at a casino. And he eats for free. I know several people that have lost a lot of money at a casino. And they eat for free. But my dad, he never eats for free. Which in retrospect is a good thing, considering what the odds are. But Friday nights, sure as can be, Stacy and Dad would be there. And the best story that he tells about that is actually about Stacy. Because to see Stacy Eckert eat a crab leg is a thing of magnificence. It is Mahomes throwing a football. It's Bobby Witt throwing a baseball. And as Dad used to say, when Stacy started in with the crab legs, the table next to us needed extra napkins. My favorite Dad and Tiffany story. It's Tiffany's favorite story too. Tiffany was a freshman at ACCHS. Her track coach was Dwayne Feldkamp, who's here today. Shout out to Dwayne and Rusty Feldkamp, by the way. Where would this city, where would this church, and where would our high school be without the Feldkamps? Right? You see them today. Tell them thank you. So anyway, Tiff was sprinting the 100-yard dash. She was very good, but remember, she's a freshman. She gets third place. Now, this track meet was in Hiawatha, where throughout my history, it's been very hard for people from Hiawatha to count to 3. A problem that exists to this day, I might add. They missed it. Back in 1990, they had spotters, and the spotters grabbed you as you went across the line. It's not like it is today with all electronics. And the spotters messed up, which is ridiculous because that meant that the spotter who did 4th place and 5th place and 6th place messed up too. So my sister finished completely out of the running. Tiffany was upset. Coach Feldkamp was very upset. And my dad is fit to be tied. He comes out of the stadium with murder in his eyes. That's one more apology than I thought I was going to have here. And it got to the point where the AD grabs him and says, "We got to go." So they went out into the parking lot, and they're talking, and my dad calms down. And if you know my dad, you know he's got this cheesy smile, right? His favorite Challenger story, by the way, is a cop stopped him doing 100 miles an hour by Eckert on 116. And the cop said, "What were you doing?" And Dad gives him that same smile and says, "It just got away from me." And he says the cop let him go. I believe it. He drops the same smile on the AD, and the AD says, "Look, give it a couple minutes. Look down there, see that? There's an open gate. Just walk through it and come back in." My dad comes back in the train. But the event so turbocharged the Effingham team, ACCHS team, that their relay team, their 4x100, which Tiffany Eckert was seated 6th, they won the race. I think Dad's anger had something to do with that. But it was justice and righteousness for his family. Mom, a lot of ups and downs in 58 years. But they stuck it out. And my mom was a hard worker, maybe one of the hardest workers I ever knew. And I wanted to say infinite patience, but maybe I should say godly patience. And my dad tried her patience every day. We all saw it. And without a mom, my dad doesn't live the life that he did. It would have been less full. It would have been more difficult. And it wouldn't have had us. Thank you, Mom. Love you. Just a couple of quick facts about my dad. Number one, besides not answering the phone, he was late, like all the time. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm surprised that that's here right now. If it was up to my dad, we'd be about another 10 minutes away. All three of us were almost born in the back seat of all of those cars. Every one of us had a last minute run to the hospital. I don't know how my grandma Blair actually lived through my birth. She was in the back seat of the 65 GTO going 100 miles an hour in Kansas City. A funny thing that my dad used to do was he would do things and then tell us not to tell Mom. 2 of these. My dad called me up and said, "Son, I bought a 78 Firebird." I'm like, "What? What are you doing?" He goes, and by the way, Jared Reichert's in here. I saw him. It was Jared's dad who sold him the car. You know my dad is loved when his car sells when he comes to his funeral, by the way. My dad bought the 78 Firebird, and he says, "Look, here's what we're gonna do." Because all of a sudden I'm in the middle of a conspiracy I didn't know I was in. I'm gonna put it in your name, and then we're not gonna tell Mom. Well, Dad, where are you gonna park it at? "Oh, in the shed." "You're not getting it." "Okay, I'm not gonna tell Mom, but I'm pretty sure she's gonna see a car." The second one, and by the way, I had kept like 15 "don't tell moms" out of here. The second one, though, was funny. Tiffany's son, Jax, her firstborn, was being born, and I believe he was still in the hospital. In the middle of that, Dad says, "I want to get a tattoo." So Jamie finds a reputable tattoo parlor, which is really hard to do, and Dad gets this massive Navy anchors away anchor on his forearm. I mean, it's what, 8 inches? It's the whole forearm, almost. And then he says, "Don't tell Mom." What are we doing? Anyway, quick hitters, right? Here we go. He loved the Effingham Fair, loved it. His favorite John Deere for that was his M. Some of you have seen it several times. It sits in our yard right now. He loved Thanksgiving dinner with his Aunt Mary. Her sons and daughters are here today. We loved Aunt Mary. And we loved Thanksgiving dinner there. Then he loved and Mary unfortunately died way too early. And then Thanksgiving dinner moved to my house. And we would start talking a week before about what he wanted. And it was a very big deal. And Christy introduced him to cream cheese corn. And then I've had to make that. Christy's had to make that probably about 100 times since that day. He loved the Chiefs, of course, as we all do. Except for Ellen, our cousin, who's a Miami Dolphin fan. I don't know why. Love the Chiefs. And one of the things that Dad and I used to talk about is, you know, we lived 50 years and never saw a Super Bowl. Dad saw the 1970 Super Bowl, right? Don't get me wrong. But I didn't. I was 3. I have no memory. I don't even remember Glenn Dawson playing. And so, like all of us, we've suffered. For 50 years, we suffered. And then this guy named Patrick Mahomes showed up. And yes, I know it's my dad's eulogy, but now I've mentioned Mahomes twice. My wife later is going to say, that's no surprise. But he was in my house the day that we won our first Mahomes Super Bowl. And we have it on video. And I don't care what the video says, I did not cry. My dad did cry. It was one of the happiest moments that we shared, right? And I want to be a little thankful for Mahomes and Andy Reid for bringing that to my dad. Something that we never thought we would see. And again, much like cars, it's a hobby, right? It's not important, but it is because it's family. Loved KU basketball. And when KU won the last national title, he was in my basement. Tiffany was with us. My whole family, we were all in the basement. And, you know, the hardest thing for me probably is going to be that after every single Chiefs game, win or lose, I would call him. After most of the Jayhawk basketball games, not all of them, I would call him. And it occurred to me, in the fall, I've got 50 phone calls I've got to make in the next year. And even though my family doesn't answer the phone, some of you better answer the phone, because I got to call somebody. He loved his sister Dorothy. We went to Colorado, I don't know how many times to go visit her. He loved his t-shirts of wolves and eagles and American flags, just these really corny t-shirts. They're so corny they became a staple. And I can't think of any, and most of our pictures are with him wearing these t-shirts. During that year that we thought he was going to die with a heart collision, do you know what he and I did? We went to Lawrence and we finagled our way into a private dinner party where Bill Self was the featured speaker. And in our cell phones is Bill Self's cell phone number. Like, can you imagine that? Again, I chalk it up to my dad's cheesy smile. And I've never called it and I've never texted him, don't ask. But I just couldn't believe that Coach Self would do that for my dad, but he did. And I just want to end with this farm. Some of you who have been there, and I encourage all of you to drive by and stop in. It's beautiful right now. It's as beautiful as it's ever looked. And there was a real debate for us if we were going to put him on the farm or here. And we might have the wrong answer, to tell you the truth. He loved his farm. He loved his catfish. He loved his pond. He loved his gator. And he loved us. And right now, this is what I think. Dad is in heaven, and he's with Grandpa and Grandma, and he's teaching them how to eat crab legs.